Good afternoon and welcome to Tafakari. If you're new here, Tafakari is a Kiswahili word that means to ponder, to contemplate, or to think deeply. And it is the intention of this channel to foster critical thinking, just for the purposes of not only living a meaningful life, but at a societal level, to bring about or to devise effective solutions to meet the challenges of our times. So today in this social episode, which is on Friday, we're going to talk about something that I found so inspirational, and this was in a podcast between Dr. Kingori and Dr. Dindi. Yes, it was on Dr. Kingori's channel, and he was in conversation with Dr. Dindi, who is a heart surgeon. I know there's a bigger word than that, which I've forgotten. And he talked about the fact that because he is in a profession that requires him to deal with death regularly, he's very aware of mortality. And for him, that awareness, signals a sense of urgency on his part to seize the day. And one thing I really liked, just based off that awareness, he said that, on people's deathbeds, he's never met anybody who regretted not having worked enough, not having made enough money. But he talked about two regrets. The first was people wishing that they had better relationships with their family, with their friends. And the second was people wishing that they had lived a life of significance. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because he said people always have that wish or that regret that I wish I had honored that thing inside of me. I wish that I had listened to that voice with regard to what I felt my calling was about. And I thought that was so important because, it's just sad that capitalism has made it look like money is everything, but money is not. So often we define ourselves based on capitalist metrics. The more money, more houses, more plots. But at the end of the day, we are human beings. And within us, we have a sense of what life is about. We have a deep sense of what counts as important. And when we don't honor that, it's something that nags at us. It's something that bothers you. And that is how you find you're working in these jobs, you keep on getting more. You thought that you'd be happy when you got a car, you thought that you'd be happy when you got a house, you thought that you'd be happy when you got properties, and then you realize there's still a nagging sense of emptiness. And conversely, that is how you find people who you would think are living in the most dire of situations. You find that even in those situations, they have joy. I was even surprised when I found that they never trade it to be on that other side of too much wealth but a sense of emptiness. And you see, because you have it in you, the problem with not honoring that sense of feeling that you need to make a contribution is that emptiness never goes away. And unfortunately, I don't say that it's the only cause, but because depending on how heavy that feeling is, oftentimes people sink into numbing it through more work, numbing it through substance abuse, but it always stays there. And I feel like part of the reasons that have contributed to this is that when we are young, we had an inclination of the things that made us happy, an inclination of the things that gave us deep fulfillment. But obviously, as you grow up, because for me, I feel like this is a lot of nurture, we start getting into the world where we are told this is realistic, this is what you should be doing. Whatever inclination you had in terms of this is what I want to do, this is how I want to contribute to the world, this is what makes me feel alive, that light gets very dimmed by sometimes the realistic approach. This is what the world needs, this is what is needed right now. Or even in other cases, aside from what I call the market, I feel like that's the worst thing that ever happened. What the market needs, not what you need. It's also people just not recognizing your gift. And because they don't think it's worthy, then what happens is that they diminish you, they put you down. And so you learn to numb that part of yourself. But the thing is, you know the way they say that the body keeps score? You will know that you're not living a fulfilled life. You will know that. And it will nag at you. And the more you go on living your life, you realize you're living through the motions. You had hoped that maybe you could suppress that part of yourself. And then you realize as you keep on moving through life, you're discontented. And so, for me, when you talked about that, when you realize how short life is, I think that's the point where we need to be honest with ourselves and ask myself, so you've been living for all these different people. You've had this inclination, you've had this calling, you've been living for all these different people, and you're not contented. So why not try living for yourself instead? Why not try honoring that voice? Because in any case, we know at one point in our lives, we are not immortal. And in honoring yourself, because all these people will not be there with you when you're buried 6 foot under, they won't be there with you. And that's why you have to now give yourself the freedom to make a contribution. And what is even more interesting is that even when you think about your contribution, is that in honoring your calling, in honoring your contribution, that is when you're at your best. That is when you can inspire people. That is when you can move the needle. And the thing is, our contribution doesn't have to be a big thing. Sometimes we think that we need to be famous and stuff like that. Our contribution can be anything from honoring your talents, can be anything from, starting a small groups, just about anything that is your calling. But the point is that you're living life on your own terms. So that when all is said and done, you don't have that feeling of regret. And I think for me, the way forward sometimes I feel like because that was beaten out of us, for some people you even forget, what did I actually really like? And I feel that thing never goes away. So part of it is sitting down with yourself and asking yourself, what really made me come alive as a child? What made me really come alive, in school, in class, when I was young? And for other people, it's because it's never gone away and it's always been in your face, then what is needed is courage. It might be the courage perhaps to even leave a job in pursuit of something else. That's how you realize people left a well-paying job and went to teach at their high school because they felt that calling of contribution. It might be even adjusting your life, your expenses, so that now you're able to honor the thing that makes you come alive. It might be having to face people. Yeah? It might be having to deal with the courage to have to deal with what will people think so as to pursue that. But at the end of the day, when you think about that, ultimately, you need to honor yourself. It might feel difficult at the beginning because of the cost, but I always say, between the cost of staying in a place that you know is not giving anymore, compared to the cost of biting the bullet and eventually, reaping the benefits of that, what would you rather choose? And like we say, we all know, we know we are going to die. There's a fixed set of time that we have. We don't know when that is. Taking that into account and taking into account that this is something that people literally say, I regret doing this. Why not seize the moment now that we're here? Right? So that's had for today. And for me, like I said, I found that so inspiring because at the end of the day, I've never bought into capitalism and all these metrics, and I feel like there's something deeper that we are called to do, and that is what we should honor. So that's all that I had for today, and until next time, kwaherini.